So in this video, we are going to fix the side menu in the WPF application. So right now we have a toolbar already with 3 options. So we can effectively click 3 buttons for chat, media, and finding people, if you will, contacts. But they do nothing, they're just buttons. And then we have a set static content right now displaying some fake chat messages. Now the server's up and running though, and we actually have people that can sign up, it's time to make the list of people and be able to find and add people. So let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is tidy up a few little things, upgrade some packages, general maintenance of a project you should do every few weeks to few months. So let's just start by upgrading the package. So I've installed Windows again. I've refreshed my PC and upgraded it. I've not bothered installing 4.7.1. I've only installed 4.7.2. So at the same time now, let's also upgrade the Facetto Word projects. It's a good time to do this kind of review. So we will click OK to this, basically just change it down for the minute, and then we'll just right click properties and jump it up to 4.7.2. And then at the same time we'll just check these 2 packages. I've got no upgrades. I might upgrade those, I might not, depending if there's any breaking changes. But right now I've only got 2.0 installed. I haven't installed 2.1, so those are fine. So now let's just right click on the solution and do manage NuGet packages for solution. Let's just do a general update of everything on the packages here. So we can select all, we'll update those 4, and then we'll build and run and make sure there's no issues, if you will, that everything still runs. So just click OK to everything, accept. And then that's about done, I'd say. So let's build. Check everything still builds. If we get any errors as well after upgrading packages, then you typically just close everything down, clear the bin and object folder, the VS folder, and kind of restart first to give it a real fresh clean. But this hasn't failed, so the one thing I will check is in our app settings. Let's just point this to facetto.chat because that's a live website, so it saves us having to spin up the ASP.NET Core server in the background for now. And then if we run this, let's also make sure I have turned on disassembly by mistake. Let's just make sure I have exceptions turned on there, which I do. Then it's all up and running. You can see I've got this black bar as well, the UI debugging. So let's just disable that by going to Tools, Options. So we search for Live, and debugging, and disable this enable UI debugging tools for XAML, and we don't want that. If we now run again, this should have got rid of that bar, and there we go. So that's now gone. So we've got the application. We can click, scroll, check the settings, which actually works, and this is the bar we really want to change and have this loading different content, which we'll do. So everything seems to be still working after the upgrade, so that's fine. Now one of the things we did have in the last video, or the video before it maybe, is the load async call, which kind of highlighted where I simply forgot to do something that I should always do. This doesn't lock, so if you call it twice, all this code can run twice, and then you'll have an issue with eventually when it hits the database and tries to save concurrently, you'll end up with issues, which we've seen. So what we should do, and what we have done, if we search for run command, and where we use these, we should be doing things like this to lock the command for everywhere in our application that has command, or rather anything that gets called in a command, or any function that the command calls. So we'll do the same here in the load async. We'll basically lock the load async call, and then we can update So that doesn't return anything, so we just want to await a run command. Lock this command to ignore any other requests while processing, so the comment's still valid. And then we want a new one where it says last name is saving to settings loading, or loading settings, as kind of these transactional properties. So we'll just put in here a public boolean settings loading, and then we will state that it indicates if the settings details are currently being loaded. And then we could use that, because right now it will simply ignore. We could bind the UI to this command now, so that while it's loading, the settings page could be partly grey to indicate that it's loading. I'm not going to bother doing that because it's a small and quick call, and I think it'd be more jarring to the user to flick on and off. So I'm not going to kind of bother with that statement. But now, if we go to basically anywhere we do the load async here, if we were to just chuck in, say, 3, before the lock, this would have thrown a database error. Now what will happen is the first one will run and the next two simply won't run. Or maybe one will run, finish quick, and then the next one will run. But either way, we're not going to get now, as long as my fix works, we're not going to get any crashing due to that issue with the load. So now that's fine. And we could also debug and see that, that wouldn't hit in here every time. But, we've done it already, so we know that works. So that's one of the little fix out the way that we wanted to do. And what we should really do now is also go through and find any commands that we use and update them all to have the same kind of lock. And it might be overkill in some cases, because you might say that certain calls simply don't have an issue with being called multiple times, so you can have a bit of flexibility there. But things certainly like the log out of this should definitely be locked. So I'm going to do the load and the log out for now, and then we might just do a sweeping change, and I'll simply post a link to the changes that were made, if you will, afterwards. But right now, these are the only two I'm going to do. If I do any other changes, I'll leave comments in the description. So this one will be logging out to lock the command, and then we'll just have another transactional property up here, public, wrong place. There we go, public boolean logging out. And this just, as we mentioned, checks if this property is already running, correctly locks it, and basically only allows one thing to run at a time. And if you call it while it's running, it simply gets completely ignored. That's how this works. So it indicates if the user is currently logging out. So that's that fix. So now we'll move on to what we actually want to do, which is to make the side menu usable. So what we have, let's just spin it up and see what we have. We've got these 3. So I'm going to call this one, say, chat, this one contacts, and this one media for now. And then when we click these, we want actions or other commands to run. So the first step is we will need to make an enumerator for this. So we'll put this in core, and we will do it in, it's not a view model, it's not really data model. Let's have a look where else we've put any enums. We won't have many. We just put them in, we actually have put them in data models, and we'll just chuck them in there. So we'll put them in a data model, keep it all in the same place. We'll add a class. Now, I haven't reinstalled my little tool to add a class quicker with, I think it's Shift F2. I'll have to reinstall that. So this one we'll call side menu content. And then it will be a public enum, and this will be the type the currently select, oh, that's not even currently selected, the type of content in the side menu. It's more accurate. And then this can be chat, which will have equaling 1. We have contacts, and we have media. and then a list of chat threads, a list of contacts, a list of media from all chat messages. So that's the enumerator we can use. So this will become part of our view model. We'll add this as a property to a view model now. And the place for that, and really one thing I want to kind of discuss here now is, this is one of the biggest questions everybody has, or everybody has had to this point on my videos that follow and that try to progress forward, is I now need to load content from one model and into another, or in this instance, like the side menu now is going to have different view models and different states, and it's the question of where does that information go? Where do I put that view model? And I'll do a video probably after this one that kind of goes in depth about that kind of layout, but all you have to think is more along the lines of pretend you don't have a WPF UI, pretend you have no UI basically. And what you're trying to do is construct this whole UI principle and all the data and all the information in view models. So in data, in a sense, like in a computer model, not in a visual screen. So in that case, if we're saying the application now has chat messages, media, and contacts, then those should all be part of the application view model because it's part of the application as a whole. And those want to live in memory, if you will. They want to be part of the memory. So with that said, that's where we're going to add them. But I will go into more depth about correctly structuring the view models in the next video. So let's just get back to it. So let's now go to the application view model. And that's where we'll add these properties. So we just go to view model, application view model. Then we've got public properties, we've got current page, side menu visible. We've got properties already. Let's now just add a public, we'll call it, well, it's going to be the side menu content, and we'll call it the current side menu content. And that by default we will make the chat page. And we'll say determines the currently visible side menu content. So we've now got a property we can bind to, and we will simply need to update that property now to match the correct value. So when we click the buttons now, when we click chat, contacts or media, we want to update this to the correct value. So the next step to that is to add some commands. So the commands are in, I believe, the settings view model. And we will have, sorry, not settings view model. They are, we've got to actually add them. So we won't have any. We'll do them in the application view model itself. So if we go to here and chuck in a new region for public commands, and this one will be the command to change the side menu to the chat. And then in here, we'll just have a public I command, which is in system Windows input based on that suggestion. Yep, same one as that. There we go. And this can be open chat command. And then we'll keep copying off whatever we've already done to make sure we match the same layout. We'll then have another two. So we'll have change it to the contacts and change it to media. And then this will be open contacts and open media commands. So we have the three commands ready. Then we make them in the constructor, which we also don't have here. So we will chuck in a constructor. And then in here we will create the commands, and the open chat command equals new relay command, and then the action will be open chat. And we'll do the same for the other two. So we have open contacts open media. And these don't exist yet, we'll have to make them. So open contacts, open media, open chat are the three we want to make. Then we have here now a go-to page. Let's just check if this is used, just called directly. So this would be a public helper really. This is public helper methods. Both of those are off. So they just wrap them up because they're not wrapped up. And then here we'll now have, let's see what we named the other ones. We did public commands. We made the commands, and then we wrap them in command methods as the region. So we'll just have command methods, and then here we'll now have public void open chat, and its job is, as we mentioned, to basically set this property. So this current side menu content property is what we want to set. So we just set that to be the chat. So set the current side menu to chat. Changes the current side menu to the chat. And then we can copy and paste that twice. Change the current side menu to the contacts. And change the current side menu to media. And then update all these. And then we have contact media, 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 all done. So they are the command methods now, so they're done. So we have, I believe, all of the properties that we will need to now bind this to the UI. Okay, so now it's time to actually bind the UI. I think that's all we need for now in the view models. And we should be able to change pages. And we've only got one page, but we should be able to now change to that page correctly. So if we go to the side menu control, I believe it is, which is the thing with the buttons on. I'm presuming this designer builds okay. It does. So it's these three buttons we want to bind to. So we have the buttons already in the main buttons here. Now we just want to bind them. So I'm just going to first split them down so they're a bit easier to see. Now we have more stuff on them. And then we just simply want to bind to the property. This view model is already bound by the caller, I believe, to the, in fact, there's a point. Where is this bound already? Let's see, side menu control. See if we can just pass down the where are we? There. So it's got side menu control. It will inherit from this main window, which has a main window view model, or the window view model. So because of that, we can either pass in the, which we think we will do here, we'll pass in the data context being the application view model. The source will be the static view model locator dot instance, and that I believe should give us now, if I've done that right. And then in fact this could also update because we're now doing the data context. It should work for this as well. So we shouldn't have to do the finding of the view model there now, because it should already be based on this. That should also mean that the side menu control should now be bound to the application view model already, and these buttons can simply now be bound to the commands on there which we made, which was open chat command, there we go. open contacts command and open media command. Now the commands alone won't be enough, but in fact no, sorry, they will. The commands on here will be enough because they'll just simply set the properties. But then when we come to bind to the content, we will, which isn't actually in here, is it? It's in the main window here. So the content we've set here, this will have to use a converter. But for now, let's just see first if the animation isn't broken, and also make sure these get called when we click the buttons, just because I haven't done binding statements in a few weeks and I want to make sure I haven't made a mistake there before we go further. So we have these buttons. I click this one, there we go, open chat. Click this one, open contacts. Click this one, open media. Good. So that is all working. We now have the buttons bound. So the last step really is to change this simple content here that just is what it is. We delete that and we change this control to simply be bound on the content as well. The content can now be the current side menu content. But if we run that, what we should see, I presume, is the content will automatically pull in the string converter and just convert it to a string of the enum value. So we should see when we click the pages now, it will simply say chat, there we go, chat, contacts, media. So you can now see we're flipping between different content in this grid based on the button. So all we need to do for that to turn it into actual content, similar as we've done with the page host, is to use a converter. We're going to have to make one, obviously, but it will be in here, the same place. We'll call it side menu content converter, and that's really it. So let's make a side menu content converter, which we have in value converters. I will just probably copy and paste, I don't know, a Boolean invert one. And we'll rename this to side menu content converter. And then in here, a converter that takes a side menu content and converts it to the correct UI element. And it will be a side menu content converter. Convert back is throw new, which is fine. And this one will now want to actually return the value. So the first thing we need to do is get the side menu type, and we'll get that from the value. So the value should already be side menu content. And we're not going to do any other checks on that because that's what we're binding to. So get the side menu type. Then we'll do a switch on that. So side menu type. In case of chat. And in the chat, we can return a new, for now, just a new chat. What was it? Chat control, chat list control. There we go. We can just return a new one of them for now. And that will, we can obviously update this after to return certain instances or keep them in memory or whatever we want. It's all based on if we want this in memory all the time or whether we want to simply create it every time we click the button. But in order to tab fast between them, we'd probably end up having a chat list control in memory somewhere already, which could be in this converter or it can be anywhere else really. As in we could have, say, protected chat list control chat list control equals new chat list control. And to be honest, let's just do that for now, just to show the point that it will stay in memory all the time now. However, we won't have to create the class every time. So it's, you know, it's weighing up that difference between creating a class or keeping it in memory. So an instance of the current chat list control. So we'll do that, and then in here we simply return the chat list control, say. And then we don't have any other pages, so return no UI yet, sorry. And then that'll just return a string. And now that should, have I commented everything? Comment, return the, or rather, switch based on type, chat, unknown. There we go. So that should be found now. That should simply find it when I build, unless I've just put an extra. I'll just put an extra curly in there. That's the only problem with that. It's going to complain now. Or have I? No, I haven't. It would have worked, just haven't compiled. One thing I didn't notice is whether the side menu animated in. I never paid attention, but I'm pretty sure it will. Or maybe it doesn't. So now you can see no UI yet, and we toggle between them. But I didn't happen to notice whether this side menu animated in, based on whether this needed to still be found. We've set the data context, but maybe this still needed the source. So let's just put that back in a minute and do application view model dot, and let's see if it animates in now. If not, I could just maybe not be seen because it's animating in too fast for when it's first spinning up and debugging. I could also slow down the animation just to see, which is probably the easier way to do this. But if I don't see the animation this time, now here's an interesting one. This shouldn't have locked here. This is the thing we fixed at the start of the video. So this, oh yeah, settings loading. So yeah, this should not have been able to lock anywhere in here. So what's gone wrong there? We've either got an issue with our check that for some reason isn't working, or we have two instances of the, where are we? We might have two instances of this settings view model. So that might be the other issue. In fact, that should be the only other issue. I can't see any other way that should be possible. We've added a singleton. We've returned the version. So, oh no, that's in design time. So I'm actually not sure why we're getting an issue there, because we shouldn't have been able to get that issue. Is it going to tell me what the error is again now? It's obviously a concurrency lock, but based on my logic, we shouldn't have two runs of this. We should only have one. So we could add some logging to this and keep reloading and seeing if we get into here. And let's also add, let's do a quick load just as we're about to be done as well. So let's close all them. Let's just restart once more because I just want to first see if this animation's fixed, then we'll focus on fixing that bug. So I think the animation is just too quick to see either way. So let's just do animate slide in from left, property, and we've just got 0.3 here at the minute. So animate in, let's just change it to 10 seconds. Check it starts animating in at the start. And we should see a really slow animation, unless the animation's broken completely for some reason, but okay, the animation's actually broken entirely. Or is that the point we don't animate in because we're not changing? But I did think it was meant to animate in when we start. We can change the click to change the, where are we? We're going to get lost in a minute with all these different things going on. What we can do is in the, where are we? application view model. Right, so when we click the side menu, say, let's just toggle the view model application.side menu visible. Let's toggle it and let's see if it animates only afterwards. I think I might have put that in that it doesn't. I think I did purposely put it in so it won't animate when you first open, because you don't want to see everything sliding in the very first time. Yes, that slides out there fine. So if we now just confirm whether this works without the source, because the data context is set and it should pick up from that, then we can change the animation speed back, and that's that sorted. And then we'll just focus on why we're getting this concurrency error when we should be locked, which means, you know, it shouldn't be possible. If not, then something else is going on that we need to look at. Yeah, so the animation still works that way. So there's no issue there. No issue there. We'll also need to remove that before we do any of that, because we don't want that still firing 3 times. That was just a quick test. Change that back to just 0.3. View model, we don't need that in now. Pressing the Windows key. But we'll leave that in to try and find the issue. So now we want to try and get that issue to happen. So we go to settings, view model. And if we now just put in here quickly, just for debugging, private string mid equals GUID dot new GUID to string, so we can see the settings view model, so whether it's a new instance or not. It's happening on the load, so in here we'll just do debug dot write line settings ID MID, and then by doing that also as well, we'll see how many things run, you know, how many events are running. We should only ever have one, so that will be there. It crashes somewhere around here, so we'll say you know, running. We'll just say running, simple as that. And then when it's done here, it will be done. And then we should see in the logs what we should expect, as we should see settings ID always being the same, but we should see settings ID running done, and then settings ID running done. We should never see, say, settings ID, or a running before we've seen a done, because this should be locked to a single call. That's kind of the point of it. So let's just see what happens. Shouldn't take long to get the error. We had it twice within 4 startups. So let's get an idea of basically what's going on. Let's also chuck a few more of these in, because I think that's the issue. It's based on the timing of when those are kicking in. I might also put a little delay in between to try and force the, you know, just the right timing. So let's just put a few of them in. So it'll take a bit longer to start up, but we should now have some variance in when these spin up and when they get finished and things. But I'm at a loss at the minute as to how it's happening. It will be obvious once we've seen, but right now I'm not entirely sure why. I can only presume we've got 2 instances of a settings view model. Maybe if the dependency binding hasn't done something right, I'm not sure, but it's definitely something we want to solve. I want to see why. The other option is if that call has been, you know, if there's another database call going on, that we probably need to lock all the database calls together, because if there's any, you know, if there's multiple database calls happening at the same time, then it could be a simple case that it's trying to alter the same table, and that's what's causing the issue. And wouldn't you believe it, once we want to get the error, we can't get the thing happening. Might have to add more delay, less delay, more bits in between. Surely this is enough calls to try and get it to fire an issue with concurrency. Let's also check the output because I'm not noticing the output. I'm not really paying attention because you can see all the events there for the database firing. So what we should see is there's the running, there's the database hits. Should probably put a bit more clear statement in so we can see it easier. Then we've got done. So there's, in fact, select one, select one, select one. Let me just copy this to Notepad so it's a bit easier. And let's just see, we should see settings ID 6C. It's only hit once, which is right, so the whole thing's only ever run once. And then runnings only have a hit once. And then done's hit once. But I'm just noticing this is, there's maybe something to pay attention to. Let's just have a quick look at this call. So we have, with that said, I think that's where we'll end this video. We now have the side menu. We can tab between the pages and we've got the old one back. We fixed a few bugs. We've upgraded all the packages. But hopefully this video was good. We're back into the WPF. We're moving forward with it now. So the next side is to get the contacts actually done so we can search for contacts, add friends, and then finally start sending some chat messages. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.